Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, Tuesday, October 2nd, the year is 2001. It is now 10:20 in the morning. City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. or as close to it as possible. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bertson, Galander, Garcetti, Hahn, Holton, Miskowski, Pacheco, Perry, Reyes, Ridley Thomas, Weiss, Zine, and Padilla. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. If I can ask everybody to please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Bernson, will you please do the honor?
Please repeat after me. Place your hand on your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Colleagues and members of the public, it's my honor to introduce to you Father Lozano, who will lead us in the invocation for this month.
Good morning, and let us pray. Loving God, we ask your blessing upon all of us gathered here this morning. In the midst of conflict and fear, we know that it is you who turn our minds to thoughts of peace. In the midst of uncertainty and anxiety, we know that by trusting in the power of your love, we will always be safe and secure. We thank you for believing in us when the events of our world seem to be at their worst. You make it possible for us to be at our best. And so today, we come together to work for the physical, social, and emotional well-being of all those living in this noble city of the angels. Today, October the 2nd, the Christian tradition celebrates the feast of the guardian angels, Los Angeles. Loving God, the angels are signs of your constant, boundless, and faithful love. And so we ask you to send your angels as your messengers to give us wisdom to make the right choices and strength to work always for peace and justice in our world. We pray for liberating courage so that we might never be imprisoned by fear or despair. We ask that you will empower us to do your will for the genuine good of Los Angeles, our state, our country, and our world. Loving God, please help us to deal wisely with the problems of our times. Make us sensitive to the special needs of the poor and always aware of the possibilities for the future. Because of you, we have the potential to bring enduring justice and peace to a world so desperately in need of your healing love today. May we always work for the common good and never let our selfish interests prevent us from caring for your people, to whom you have sent us as servants of your loving will. We make our prayer as one people, now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. Mr. Clerk, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Ms. Misikowski moves. Mr. Reyes seconds.
Commendatory resolution for approval.
Mr. Garcetti moves. Ms. Hahn seconds.
Before starting the regular agenda, there's an item to be continued. Item number 1, item notice for public hearing. Council District 14 requests that matter be continued 1 week until October 9th.
Colleagues request to continue item number 1 without objection.
Mr. President, appointment of city official. Item number 13 is the mayor's appointment of Greg Nelson as General Manager, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment.
Okay. Colleagues, item number 13 is before us. I do have one speaker card on the item. Believe we need to hold public hearing. The council calls forward Mr. Jim McQuiston.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the City Council. I rise in extreme pleasure that Mr. Greg Nelson is being appointed to the Office of General Manager of the Department of Neighborhood and Empowerment. We've worked together for a long, long time, and I'm confident that there are many, many rocky roads ahead, some bitter fights, and I can't think of anybody who is more qualified to lead us in that direction than Mr. Nelson. You have my statements, I believe, and there's some difficulties enumerated in the statements, and I hope you all will have a chance to read them.
So thank you very much. This concludes the public comment on this item. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Nelson. Colleagues, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President, members of the council. I just have a few questions for Greg, and it's in the spirit of establishing a rapport and dialogue. What is your position on ensuring that all neighborhood councils represent a diverse viewpoint of each neighborhood?
The requirement that neighborhood councils reflect the diversity of the neighborhood is a non-negotiable requirement of the city charter, and it was put in there for a very specific reason, and that was to just ensure that we didn't have neighborhood councils that just represented a very narrow point of view, that were made up of what we've come to call the same old faces. And even if the requirement were not in the charter, what I explained to community groups is their strength will be in their diversity, is that their opinions won't mean as much if it's just coming from people who all look the same, talk the same, and think the same. The strength will come from speaking as a collective group with diverse interests.
One more question. How would you prevent a situation where a neighborhood council attempts to portray itself as the official voice of a neighborhood, especially when the same neighborhood has several credible and well-defined organizations?
I've anticipated for quite some time that neighborhood councils would not and would never replace a lot of the existing groups. There will be situations throughout the entire city where existing and established homeowner groups, chambers of commerce, civic groups, and religious groups will be there, and they will continue because they have usually narrow and specific interest, and they're vital to the city and to their district. The neighborhood councils will probably and hopefully see involvement and participation from all those groups. Some may come and go just based upon certain issues. Some may stay and participate in the neighborhood councils on a continuing basis. And the neighborhood councils will not replace or supplement strong and vibrant organizations that exist now.
Thank you. And how would you engage the council offices in decision-making?
As much as I humanly can. The city council offices, that's a no-brainer. I mean, the city council offices are the focal point for what happens, what's going on in the neighborhoods. And that communication between this department and the city council offices is going to be at an all-time high and maybe even beyond what you've even envisioned. You're going to be hearing from me so much, you'll probably get sick of it.
Well, I look forward to that. Quite frankly, in our respective districts, we have many different types of projects. And it's when we can get that input that allows us to make the types of decisions that reflect the welfare of the whole as opposed to very myopic, tunnel vision type mentality. So I'm hoping to if you're voted in, to work with you. Thank you.
And as your newest constituent, you're going to be hearing from me in different aspects also.
I look forward to that.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Before I call on the next speaker, been asked to advise the public that the TEFRA public hearing scheduled for today originally was posted to take place in chambers and has been moved to room 1010. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
That's correct.
So we just want to make sure if you're here wondering where the TEFRA public hearing is, that is taking place in room 1010. Chair recognizes Mr. Burnson.
Yes, I'm really happy to see Greg Nelson in this position because I think he has the background, having worked not only with the council but with the community. Even when I got here, I guess you were Joel's deputy when I arrived in '79. So I can't think of anybody that has a better background and the ability to get in and get the job done. I think this is a critical thing because nobody seemed to know what to do up to now with the neighborhood councils as provided under our charter. But I can tell you that as somebody who has had neighborhood councils for 22 years, almost 23 now, going on 23, they work if they're done properly, and if you work with the community, they need not replace, according to one of the questions Mr. Reyes asked, they don't have to replace the chambers of commerce and the homeowners groups. They can all participate if they wish in the neighborhood councils. And it's not easy, really, as easy as you may think, to get people to participate on a regular basis. People tend to get upset and get involved when they have a project they don't like, or they have something they're pushing or something like that. But to have somebody continue over a long period of time, and you said regular faces, those are the regular faces. These are the people that are community involved and activists. And I presume that they will be probably the hub of the neighborhood councils when they are done throughout the city. I think it's important that everybody recognizes the fact these councils, and I hope nobody has been deluded to think that they're going to make decisions that are going to be binding decisions. They're advisory. Everybody should understand that. But I can tell you that over a period of 22 years, and I have planning committees in each one of my communities, but I don't think there's been more than 4 or 5 times we've disagreed on a project, on one of the findings that they have advised me on. We've usually been there on the same street. Once or twice I've been tougher than them, and once or twice I've been a little more lenient than them. But that's not bad in considering there have been thousands of projects over the past 22 years. So I'm really happy that Greg is there. I think he has the ability to do it. I think that everybody in the community should be invited, and whether they have some other affiliation, it doesn't mean the other affiliations are going to go out of business. It just means they're going to be part of it. They're part of the community. So congratulations, Greg, and I know you're going to do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burnson. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. And we'll see if we can make you maybe a CD13 constituent after redistricting, but I'll have to bring that up with Mr. Reyes.
They're fighting over me.
He's moved. We'll see. There's a few questions I'd like to ask you, but before I ask, there's no more important job, in my opinion, right now, facing the city in the next few months. And I don't say that lightly. We either are going to make this succeed or we're going to make this something that adds to people's cynicism about government. Specifically, I want to ask you first, and if I can retain the balance of my time, what role do you see the department playing in terms of organizers, and what vision for organizing do you have?
We have an outstanding cadre right now of what they call project coordinators, which are really the community organizers. I've looked at their backgrounds, I've talked to them, they are outstanding. They were hired with a special emphasis on their experience in community organizing. We're finishing up interviews right now for some additional vacancies, and again, that emphasis is on community organizing. And when I read the resumes, when I started talking to some of the people, I was truly astounded, amazed, pleased, and excited at their skills in doing the community organizing.
Okay. The second question I have is, how do you anticipate getting youth involved in neighborhood councils? What kind of structural changes or policies does the department need to pursue to really ensure that every neighborhood council has young people, even below the voting age, on them?
Yes, in the other cities that I've looked at over the years, there are three groups that are very difficult to get involved. One would be the renters, a particular problem in your area. The other would be the ethnic communities, especially the immigrant communities, and the third is the youth. And we started talking about this on staff just a couple days ago, about the youth especially, and trying to exchange ideas about how to get greater participation through them. I've been here quite a few years, and I've seen a lot of youth advisory groups come and go. I used to be young once myself, and I know that what we have to do is to make the work of the youth, what we expect of them, meaningful. We have to listen to the ideas that they present. We have to challenge them to actually come up with meaningful proposals, not just talk about things and issue opinions. And there are a lot of exciting mechanisms to do that. One which we're going to start working on right away, which is, and I don't know the exact name of it, but it's in the high schools, if you want to go beyond the 4.0 grade point average, you have to do community service time, and you can boost the GPA. So that gives us access to some of the absolute best and brightest in the high schools, and those are the student leaders. And from there, I think we can tree down and have those people provide the access to a lot of the other students and provide us with a system of continuity, because obviously there's a tremendous turnover among students. But yes, giving them something meaningful, and we will not just ask them what it is they want to do. We'll be giving them tasks and things that we would like them to do.
Yeah, I would just recommend maybe one of the training modules that you could do in future months would be specifically have a few around the city of how do we get young people involved in neighborhood councils and invite those councils to come. And we'd be happy to work with you and the Youth Commission when that comes on board. I'm sure is going to be a resource. My last question just has to do with translation and what sort of commitment you can make at this point, if any, and obviously working with the council offices. My own office is buying some translation equipment, but that's been one of the most difficult things in meetings where we have multilingual populations. What sort of a commitment can you make to actually getting more equipment and or translators?
Yeah, I learned a long time ago, don't make promises you can't keep. That translation issue is, again, one we've been talking about over the last couple days, and it is not something I am pleased with. For instance, we've got some workshops scheduled at some schools, and the LAUSD has promised to provide translation for events at schools. Well, that isn't happening. Yeah. And I've got to figure out what the problem is there. I've got to figure out the city's availability of translation equipment and translators. We're doing a lot better with translating the written word now, but this is nowhere near where I feel comfortable. And our plan requires the translating into at least 7 languages, and it's a high priority.
Okay. Well, I know Council President Padilla had introduced some legislation on kind of general language services in the city, and I think it's worth looking at a Bureau of Language Services again, and maybe that's something that you can be involved in. Thank you very much. I strongly support this nomination.
Thank you.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. 2 of my colleagues were charter commissioners along with me, and neighborhood councils was a big part of the new charter. And from that point forward, we thought that by this date, we would have things really smooth on the path. I know that Councilman Ridley Thomas and Councilman Burnson have different forms of neighborhood councils, very successful in their council districts, and the rest of us are kind of hanging in the wings waiting. October 1st was the day to be certified. I know you're behind the curve. I know you have a lot of experience and knowledge, and you've traveled around and seen other forms. Can you tell me how you're going to get this thing up and running to satisfy, number one, the secessionists of the San Fernando Valley who say that we're not listening, we're not responding, we're not delivering the new charter that was supposed to be delivered, and to pull that together in a very short period of time before November 2002. And then I'll have one more question when you get done with that.
Yeah. Yeah. As we in the department, we're not going to just be addressing the secessionists, because what I saw from spending 2 years on the mayoral campaign trail is that the complaints that the secessionists have about the city, basically the disconnect that they feel between themselves and their government, is widespread. It is in all parts of the city, not just those cities that have formally started the secession effort. So what we're going to be doing, if we're successful, and this is how I hope that we get measured in the end, is how we begin resolving that, how we begin resolving that disconnect, bringing people closer to the city. We could have had a delay in the October 1st deadline. I was new. There were the application process, as you know, when the application first came out, was big, bulky, cumbersome, and actually probably insulting. And we could have had an excuse for a delay. We decided to go ahead and push toward the October 1st deadline anyway. And we're going to keep up with that. We're going to process the applications as they come in, as fast as they can come in. We see no problem with processing them. And hopefully the first ones that get processed and get approved will be examples for the others.
Do you need additional staff, additional funding to get this accomplished?
We have approval, we have resolution authority right now from the City Council to hire some remaining field people. There are three other important slots that I have to fill, one exempt, two through civil service. Very shortly, we're going to be coming to you with a plan and say, if we want to really get it done the way it should be done, here's what it's going to take. And yes, it's going to take some additional money, but it will be justified. I'm not going to bring any plan before this City Council unless I can justify it from top to bottom and convince you that there's going to be a product at the end that'll be worthwhile.
Okay, we put in our faith in you, Greg, so don't disappoint us.
I won't let you down.
Ms. Misikowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Greg, I think you're going to find a lot of folks are very pleased with this appointment, and I count myself among them. But the issues that I am concerned, in my council district, we're working with lots of community groups who have gotten the packets, are forming, and are doing wonderful things. But I really am concerned with those areas to whom the word hasn't gotten out yet, and how you're going to put the major efforts and emphasis of the department in those areas, not working, as you said, with those groups that have the capabilities to come together, the interest, and that's already been sparked, and whether spontaneous or not, how we can spark that in those other areas. That's one area that I'm concerned about. And then secondly, your capability and enthusiasm and ability to really organize neighborhoods is going to be terrific, or help neighborhoods organize themselves. But the other part of this is going to be organizing a different kind of reaction in City Hall, in the bureaucracy, among the different departments, who also have to be trained to a new day and trained about their need to be responsive to these community groups. And in some of them, some of the departments are better equipped and better and more knowledgeable about interacting with community groups. Others, it's going to be a whole new world, and how we changed bureaucratic thinking and language and processing to make it understandable and allow participation at a neighborhood level is going to be a really big challenge. And I think we're going to look to the general manager of Dunn to help educate and train not only the communities to organize, but the folks who run the city agencies to react well and communicate well and participate with the neighborhood groups. So if you could comment on both of those issues, the area of organizing in areas which might not have that sort of instinctive capability or interest right now, and then also the interest of the city's general managers and departments to react well with the neighborhoods.
Yeah, all of that was considered when the charter was being drafted and the ordinance being implemented. There's no question that what we're doing on many different levels is changing a culture. And part of that culture, as you noted, is within this building. And again, as we have learned in other cities, whenever something like this, a strong participatory democracy system is proposed, there's an instant, almost knee-jerk reaction from the professional staff inside of City Hall, because they perceive that this means additional meetings and work, and it will. But see, it's all worth it because that's what departments do. And the departments have to communicate with people, have to connect with them. And what I'm going to be doing, as I have been doing over the years, is convincing the departments and showing them how it is to their benefit to connect with the people. For instance, if you're the police department and you want to get additional money or support for something, you've got a built-in constituency. You've got the police advisory groups, you've got neighborhood watches, people who can try to influence your decision when it comes to budget time. But if you're that poor person who has to fix potholes or put in sidewalks or trim trees, where's your constituency? And these general managers, I hope, will begin to find that they can go to these neighborhood councils who, as part of the mayor's 7-point program, will have an increased ability to influence the city's budget. And they will now have a constituency, and they will be going out to them in a proactive way. They will want to go out and talk to the neighborhood councils. So we hope to begin changing the culture that way. I think that the biggest culture shock probably is going to come with this early notification system, too. The city council, through the city clerk's office, has just an extraordinary system of providing that early notification of when issues come up through its council referral sheets. Commissions and boards don't. And that's one of the things we're going to be working on, is telling the departments again, the boards and commissions again, that they have to tell people about items the moment they know about them. Because how many times have we heard the story about the person who wakes up and didn't know that that building was being built until the bulldozer was out there beginning to carve the property? Bringing into the system the groups in the areas of low civic participation obviously is a prime focus. There's a couple of ways of doing that. One is to work with the groups now that are forming and set them up as good examples so that other groups can say, hey, that's working for them. They're getting these city resources. They're getting done what they want. Now we have a reason to do it also. And and overall, it's going out to these groups and explaining to them the reason why they should organize themselves into neighborhood councils. And that's going to be through example, and it's going to be through words. And there's going to be, when we're hiring these project coordinators, we're hiring them with an eye on their ability to go to the neighborhoods of low civic participation and to be convincing.
Thank you.
Ms. Perry.
Greg, I'm very happy to see you sitting here today, and I look forward to a long and illustrious project together. What I'd like to know from you is how you envision coordinating the already well-coordinated, well-documented efforts of the downtown councils in the 9th Council District with the lagging behind of the other neighborhood groups in the southern part of the district, so that the district comes together as a whole and is fully organized.
The downtown area is a special challenge. I had recognized this years ago, that the downtown area would be unlike any other, if for no other reason, because of its incredible diversity. The richest of the rich, the people that own those high-rise buildings, and the poorest of the poor, the people who live in boxes on the street. I have been working with the Downtown Neighborhood Council so I can see this process from the grassroots. Been working with them and have sat on committees with representatives from those different groups, and to see them beginning to work together where they begin at a sort of a them and us point of view. And as you find areas of common concern, we were able to slowly start bringing them together. I think that can be done on a very wide scale basis. I figured that if we can make this work downtown, it can work anywhere, especially downtown, because of the actually few number of residents, but the huge number of other stakeholders, not the least of which are employees. And it's an incredible challenge.
But I also share with me your thoughts on how you pull that in together with the rest of the district, because the rest of the district is not as far along in this process as downtown is.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to make sure right now is that we are not spending an exorbitant amount of time with the groups that have the ability to work out their issues amongst themselves, and we should be spending more time out with the groups that need help and guidance.
Okay, look forward to working with you.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President. colleagues. I first want to take just a brief second to thank Jacob Weiss, who at his school made all these ribbons, which his father, Jack, has given to each one of the council members. And please thank Jacob and thank the entire school for the money that they're raising to send to the New York Relief Fund. And we really appreciate that. And that's how you get young people involved. I stand today to say, first of all, in the Education and Neighborhoods Committee, we actually waived Greg's confirmation out of committee. Number one, because of we felt it was a timing issue. I feel like we've got the right guy for the job, so I wanted to make sure that it came before council so that he could start this permanently as soon as possible. And as Dennis said, on the Charter Reform Commission, there was no one who equaled Greg Nelson's passion, commitment, and dedication to the idea of neighborhood councils being included in the new charter that the city ultimately passed. Greg attended every one of our ad hoc committee meetings on neighborhood councils, was there till late at night. Greg Nelson clearly gets the concept of empowering neighborhoods throughout this city. And in my opinion, Greg, you get it, that ultimately city government will change forever how we are going to be relating to our constituents, relating to their frustrations, and indeed empowering them to really take back their neighborhoods and be involved in the process of government. So there is no one who is as happy about you heading up this department as I am. And I believe that you are charged with being the general manager of what I consider to ultimately be one of the greatest departments in the city. I mean, to think that we named a department, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and I believe that you have that vision, you have that dedication, and you have that passion to really begin empowering people in this great city. So we've never done this before. It's a radical change for city government, for city officials, but I think you're the person to head this up. We still have a long way to go. We still have a lot of neighborhoods in the city who are not empowered, who do not know how to get involved in the process. And I know that you're going to really work hard to make sure that there are resources for these forming neighborhood councils, there's resource for outreach, and you've already answered this, but I see one of your greatest challenges is as from one general manager to all the general managers of all the city departments, how do we really make this work? How does every department in the city really, even though many may have not embraced this concept, how do we now move forward and make sure that departments are willing to go the extra mile, to have the extra meetings, and to really begin interacting with our neighborhood councils? But I wish you the best of luck. I'm happy to confirm your nomination, and I know that I speak for all of my colleagues that we're happy to assist you, offer you help, our staff's help, because I, for one, am determined to make neighborhood councils one of the more successful, and I don't want to call it an experiment anymore, but it's really a successful part of how we move forward and behave as a city. I'm just over 58 seconds. I'm the mother of neighborhood councils. I can go a minute over.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. We shall continue your discussion in committee this afternoon. Mr. Holden.
You want to speak on my time? It's all right. Okay, very good. In any case, Greg, since the beginning of this concept of neighborhood council empowerment, the word empowerment has always bothered me, and I'm sure you're aware of that, because I always said that in the end, those neighborhoods councils can only make their comments and make the recommendation, and they have more knowledge, but they really don't have absolute power to make a decision one way or the other. You're aware of that. And then my question to you is that after the first such attempt on the part of the council to generate a major influence that relates to what's happening to their neighborhood, and then they discover that whatever they're recommending has been rejected or ignored, and then they come to realize we have no power, then how are you going to address that issue to them and keep them involved in the process? And that's a question, Mr. President.
What I have been doing with the organizations is explaining to them that as a part of the participatory democracy system, they actually have more power than if they had a vote in the system.
As if they had a vote, which they don't have a vote.
They don't have a vote in the
All right.
system. And the way I explain it to them is that if they had a vote in the system, for instance, if they had a vote at the front end of the planning and land use system, it is possible that a large moneyed interest, let's say that was projecting or trying to get a project approved, could find themselves with the ability to have the city council override them. So their vote then would be fairly meaningless. What I explained to them is part of the participatory democracy system. They become a lot like legislative advocates in a sense. They don't have a vote in the system, but they have the knowledge and the ability and the resources to talk to and to affect and to influence each one of the people who do push the buttons and cast the vote. They hopefully will become your very best friends. And they will, and you will want to be their friends, and they will exert their influence that way.
Well, on my time, I was just going to say that you're going to have a problem trying to convince them of that they have so much influence, so much power that they can overcome the so-called, as ethics would say, financial influence as relates to the activities of government. You're not going to succeed at that at all. One of my colleagues once said, knowledge is power. One of my colleagues once said, knowledge is power. And I would say that that's up to a point, up to the vote. Up to the vote. If you don't have the vote, you don't have absolute power, nor do you have absolute control. So you can have information, you can have a lot of money, you can have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, but it's the vote that counts. Am I right or wrong on that, Ms.?
The vote is what ultimately counts.
That's right. So then so the vote is power. And I got to tell you, without that, they will soon discover that all they have is just what we have right now. Neighborhood clubs, clubs, neighborhood councils, we have that in my district, unofficial, but they're there. And they've been coming to meetings, planning committee meetings, and you know that as well as I. And they've been having some influence, okay? And they've been very persuasive and been very successful. It won't get any better than that. And so the thing that bothers me is that they're going to become very frustrated and turn off. You can't get people out to meetings now. And when you get them all involved, and then they say, well, why am I involved? And you won't get them out again. And they'll feel that they've been deceived. So your job is a tough job. You've been around a long time, and I hope that you will be successful in whatever you do here, because I don't know what that's going to be. But good luck. You're going to need it.
One quick response to that. There is a solution to that, Councilman, and that is that the neighborhood councils, once they get formed, will be meeting at least twice a year as a Congress of neighborhood councils. And I always envisioned that at those meetings, they could get together and decide that they do want to have a formal vote in the system. Let the decision be theirs, because that means some significant changes. That means they will be elected officials, they will be elected under the Federal Voting Rights Act, but let the decision be theirs, and I can envision someday them perhaps meeting and coming to you, the City Council, and say, we would like to have a charter change.
Mr. President, I agree with
Last
that.
question.
My time will be up. I will be term limited, and then I will join the neighborhood council and come back and vote again one way or another. I'll find a way. And you'll be there to help me, won't you?
I will be there.
Thank you.
And he'll be the only no vote.
We'll take some power away from their members of the
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, members of the council, I simply rise to offer the following insights as best as I can based on my observation of Mr. Nelson over the past several years. there is probably few among us who has read as extensively and or traveled comparably to figure out, to sort out what neighborhood councils are about elsewhere and what they could be about in the city of Los Angeles. Greg Nelson, in my view, has distinguished himself in that regard. There is probably, my second point is there's probably no one else in city government outside of those who live in the 8th district and or close to it who has been a more attentive observer of the evolution of the Empowerment Congress than Greg Nelson. My third point is Greg's assets, and Mr. Burnson would wish for me to cause you to know this as he rushes me toward the conclusion of my remarks, will only encourage me to extend them, as you well appreciate. The third point, you thought I was going to forget the third point, didn't you, Hal? Is that among his assets are, I think, largely his level of energy, the fact that he is non-ideological about this business. In other words, I think he is open to our respective views to cause neighborhood councils in our city to evolve organically, naturally, and be what they can be for the neighborhoods and at the same time serve the common good. And it's with that in mind that I arise to support the item before us. I think Greg is fully aware of the fact that there's a lot of time that has to be made up. His success will be ensured by our active participation and encouragement. And I want to suggest that I'm prepared to do precisely that, because that which is at stake is critically important to the civic life of our city. So, Greg, it is mine to say that I wish you well and hope that the members, as I trust will be the case, will confirm and that we can get on with the business of empowering communities throughout the city of Los Angeles. Mort Allen wishes for me to make the observation that the department ought to be headquartered in City Hall, the hub of activity, rather than elsewhere. Should that not be possible, at least people ought to be able to get their information somehow located in this building or in this complex, such that the point of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment is communicated with a kind of central focus. That can hardly happen elsewhere as effectively as it can happen here. And so I would hope that that would be something that you would take up. That does not stand in place of the decentralization that ought to take place in terms of communities throughout the city where you would have satellite offices, not the least of which would be in that great constituent services center on South Vermont that serves a significant number of people. Mr. President, thank you for the time. I'll take my seat with Mr. Burnson's permission.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley Thomas. Any other members wishing to speak?
Mr. President, a motion is required from the floor to confirm the appointment and the salary.
Ms. Hahn moves. Mr. Burnson seconds. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Congratulations, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you very much.
Next item, please.
Items numbers 2 through 12 on the regular agenda are items for which public hearings have been held. Item number 6, a motion is required inasmuch as there's 2 reports on 1 file.
Mr. Burnson?
I have a question on 5. That's the one on the record, destroying the records?
Yes.
Is that the one?
You want to call that special?
I'd like to call it special, yeah.
Mr. Burnson calls Item 5, special. Colleagues, we have items 2 through 12, with the exception of number 5. We need a motion on number 6.
And 12?
Mr. Rudy Thomas.
Just a simple one, item 12 to refer to ITGS at the appropriate time, Mr. President.
Well, the time is now. It's currently before us.
All right, as deemed appropriate.
Colleagues request to refer item number 12 to ITGS committee. Any objection? Seeing none, that item is referred to ITGS.
Thank you, sir.
Need a motion on item number 6. Mr. Clerk, do the two reports conflict?
Los reportes conflictan.
I believe the report you want to adopt is the Information Technology and General Services, which is more extensive than the chair's communication from government efficiency.
Mr. Rudy Thomas.
So may I then, pursuant to the clerk's very correct representation, move that report?
We expect nothing less from the clerk.
Thank you. Clerk Conrad.
Items 2 through 11, with the exception of number 5, are before us. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll.
Ábrase la lista.
Close the roll.
Cierre la lista.
Tabulate the vote.
Ábrase.
12 ayes.
Those items are approved. Next item, please.
Items numbers 14 through 26 on the regular agenda are items for which public hearings have not been held.
Items 14 through 26, colleagues, do not have requests from members of the public to speak on these items. We shall deem public hearing open and closed. Any specials? Mr. Zine. Mr. Zine calls 19 special. Any others?
¿Algún otro?
Mr. Pacheco.
Pacheco.
We want to move to continue 26 1 week.
26, una semana.
Request to continue item 26 for 1 week.
26 por una semana.
19 special?
Without objection, item 26 is continued. Mr. Garcetti?
Item 19 special, please?
19 especial.
Yes. It's already called special by Mr. Zine. Any other specials?
Otro especial.
Colleagues, any other specials?
¿Algún otro especial?
Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll on the balance of the items. Close the roll.
Cierre la lista.
Tabulate the vote.
Tabulemos el voto.
12 ayes.
Those items are approved. Next item, please.
Mr. President, on the supplemental agenda, items numbers 28 through 30
al 30.
are items for which public hearings have not been held. Item number 29 is an instruction to the city attorney and engineer to report regarding Edward Fitzgerald. Did you wish to call that
That's
special?
called 29 special. We also have a card on that item.
Tengo también una tarjeta con ese asunto.
So items numbers 28 and 30 are currently before you.
Colleagues, 28 and 30, public hearing is deemed open and closed for those two items. Any specials?
¿Algún especial?
29, please?
29, por favor.
29 is called special. 28 and 30.
28, 30.
Any specials?
¿Algún especial?
Seeing none,
Dígase
Mr. Clerk, please open the roll.
Háblase.
Close the roll.
Cierre la lista.
Tabulate the vote.
Tabulemos el voto.
12 ayes.
Those items are approved.
Por eso están aprobados.
Next item, please.
El próximo asunto.
Item number 5 called
Asunto
special by
número 5, especial
Councilmember
por el
Burnson.
consejero Burnson.
Mr. Burnson.
Señor presidente.
Yeah, I just wonder, we're going to be, this is to destroy some records after a certain period of time. What period of time was that? Can somebody answer that question? I just wonder what the wisdom is of destroying records when you have the ability with today's technology to store records on very, very small space with microfiche and other means. And particularly today, we're in a new era with a new charter with term limits.
That's a good question.
We really don't have, as new members come in, it's going to, I think it's important that we retain the information. Maybe
Well, I
somebody,
think
maybe Mr. Carey can answer the question for me. He's the custodian of our
The
records.
custodian of that. Mr. Brenton, if I may, on your time, when we served on this committee together before, this is a concern that you and I had with regularity, as you recall. I'm now informed that we do retain the records. What we're essentially doing is disposing of the paper. Is that not correct?
These are the original records that are being disposed of.
How old are they?
They go back to 1989 and earlier.
What happens when some of the newer members come on the council and they need information, they want to know why the council acted in a certain way? We're not going to have that ability anymore. We're losing institutional memory.
The one thing we are looking at through an electronic records task force is to move away from paper records.
Well, I don't have a problem with that, Mr. Carey. Are these going to be retained in some manner?
No.
Wait a minute, that's different from what we had been apprised, I think. No legal documents retained that refers to this, Mike? Microfiche or anything of the sort?
These records are subject to destruction. They do not need to be legally retained. If they're the city attorney goes through all the records and pulls out any records that need to be retained for litigation purposes.
But the city attorney isn't the only one that's involved here, Mr. Carey. We have people involved. Ms. Hahn may want to know what happened in San Pedro when the council took action, let's say on the harbor or whatever. I mean, where are we going to get this information if it's destroyed? You're not going to have, you don't have the council members that are here for 30 years like Mr. Wax or myself for 22 years. You're going to have council members that are going to be serving 8 years. And you're going to have new people coming in all the time. Now, how do they get a record of what the council intended or what the community wanted when certain actions were taken? I think that we should refer these records to some sort of microfiche or some other manner, or somebody else besides the city attorney ought to take a look at them and find out if they should be preserved. Perhaps the head of the departments, particularly the areas like land use and transportation, the airports and the harbor. I think these are key things.
Technically, the city has a records management program where all the records that are identified, and the council makes the decision on whether these records ought to be retained permanently. Now, I will say, if council wants to go to a permanent retention of virtually most of the records we create, I'm going to need about 2 or 3 more warehouses to retain these.
On microfiche?
That process would then have to be implemented, microfiche, some other process to reduce these to another technology, and then that would have to be.
Mr. Carey, I can't support this today. What I'm going to do is make a substitute motion. I move that we ask the department to look at the feasibility of what it would take to important documents, not all, on microfiche, what the cost would be, and that we have some other review other than the city attorney. Not that I question the city attorney's, authority, but I think that the expertise in certain areas are important for us to retain. I think if we lose records of why previous councils acted in a certain manner, we're going to be giving up something that's going to hurt the future people who sit on this circle. So I can't support this today. I would move that we continue this, and we ask you to come back with a plan for other appraisal of what can be destroyed, what can't be destroyed, other than the city attorney, and what it would take to implement a microfiche type storage system for those records that are deemed to be important.
Let me make a comment. I didn't mean to imply the city attorney was the only reviewer of these records. The city attorney reviews them for statutory compliance, as well as do we have litigation ongoing.
Well, I understand.
These records come from the individual departments. They're making the decision on what should be retained.
Departments are making the decision on what should be retained and what should not be retained.
And then the city attorney makes the legal decision on whether we have litigation ongoing.
What are you doing with the stuff that's retained? You storing it in regular form?
Correct.
Okay, well, I'll amend my motion that I made. I'll change it. That we ought to be storing that type of information in microfiche. There's no reason for you to have warehouse space as we proceed, not with today's technology.
And anything that comes through this body and is subject of a council file, that is retained forever.
That is retained
Yes.
forever. Anything that's subject of a council.
Anything that goes into a
Well,
council
I
file.
will support the motion and to do what you're asking, but I want to amend it to ask that you come back with a proposal for microfishing some of the other material so we don't have this huge storage problem. I was not aware, first way you presented this was the city attorney was examining it. But if the department heads themselves are examining all the information, and if all the council files, anything that comes through the council is being retained, I think that type of stuff should be put in microfiche. It should be there for future generations so they know what we were thinking when we did what we did. So that would be my amendment to the motion.
Thank you, Mr.
And if we
Burnson.
were thinking, right.
Thank you, Mr. Burnson and Mr. Carey. I believe the appropriate venue for that report back would be to ITGS
Yes.
committee. Mr. Reyes.
John Reyes.
Just wanted to rise in support of Councilman Burnson's observations. This day and age of development agreements, we have contracts associated with land that span over years, and I'm sure we're not going to be destroying those kinds of documents. As a matter of fact, the ball fields up on Chavez Ravine was a result of a 30-year agreement with the CRA when Dodger Stadium was built, and we were to intercept those agreements to make sure we got those ball fields built. And that was over a 30-year period. So we have these kinds of agreements that we need to keep an eye on. And with term limits, we do need to memorialize some of those agreements. So I appreciate what Councilman Burton is saying.
Ms. Misikowski. Okay, Mr. Holden.
President, members, I'm very pleased to announce that our former colleague Rudy Savornich is back in City Council chambers, front and center.
Welcome, Rudy. Do I smell Carl Jr.? Ms. Misikowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Following along the line of what Mr. Reyes had said and Mr. Burnson, the thing that caught my attention, and I agree that there's some obsolete records that really are not of any merit, but items B and C on this list dealt with city planning, environmental review section documents, and community planning documents. And those are the kinds that I think Mr. Reyes was referring to. And I'd like to be certain. I can't tell you how often I pull from archives old planning documents, and some were on microfiche. I mean, the planning department had in this building, when the planning department was up here, its storage of records, where you could pull the 1932 either tissue copy or mimeograph copy or old yellow paper copy and actually look at an official document that was a zoning administrator testimony or examiner report or letters written to the file from the 20s and 30s. And those are still pertinent today because a decision led from that, or they were a grant back then that granted certain rights that we have to acknowledge. So when I see planning documents, just because of I know the concern there, I'd really be concerned, at least in looking at B and C, what are obsolete planning documents. I don't know if anyone here from the planning department can tell us.
They're going to have to speak to the issue of what these specific documents cover. If you have concerns, what I would suggest is that we approve the other discretion requests and we pull those and
all right, then I would further amend from what Mr. Burnson has suggested that we go ahead and approve item A, which are the general accounting management records, but the planning department either send it back to committee or have the planning department come here if we want to continue it for a week to have the planning department talk to us about what those records are.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, members of the council, as chair of the committee, let me suggest the following. Mr. City Clerk, the inimitable Mike Clary, don't ever try to pull anything over on Mr. Burnson. You know, he's attentive to these sort of items. The second point I want to make is that the matters that are of concern to the specific council members could require a fair amount of detailed review. It would be my suggestion, as a friendly amendment to that which has already been stated, that the appropriate staff person be assigned to speak with Ms. Misakowski and/or Mr. Burnson's about specific concerns they have. Once those are satisfied, if they are, bring it back then for disposition, and I would so move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley Thomas. Ms. Perry?
Mr. Carey, I'd like to know if it's possible, given the amount of documents that you have, to scan them and store them in CD-ROM or some other technologically advanced way of doing this, so that we don't have to have these discussions again, maybe in 10 years?
Anything's possible. To scan the documents that I have at Piper Tech would be a multi-million-dollar program. And scanning, when you scan documents, they're not as searchable as electronically created documents, but that's one of the charges for the Electronic Records Task Force, is to find alternatives to paper documents that will allow you to search. Scanning would be a huge undertaking given the amount of records that we have, including the police department.
Perhaps
But that'll be part of the report that ultimately will come
when
back.
is that going to be concluded, Mr.
Probably in the next couple of months, Councilman.
All right, and I think it would be useful to make it a point to brief each council office on the results of the report rather than simply issuing the report, so everyone is clear as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. This is a relatively routine matter. The items that are being raised are clearly important. It underscores the point that there is a degree of members being unsettled about the process. So I think we have to work a little more aggressively to allay the concerns that sometimes do arise. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley Thomas. We have now an understanding of the action take on this particular item and the additional information that's been requested by various members. With all that being said, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those items are approved. Look forward to the report back in committee. Ms. Perry?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to add something to item 30. If we could just go back to that, I need to have that item sent forthwith.
Sure. Forthwith on item 30, please. Next item.
Item number 19, called special by Councilmember Zine.
Okay, let's hold item 19 on the desk.
Item number 29, called special by Councilmember Garcetti. And
before members speak on that, we do have one card. Council calls forward Ms. Joyce Fickett on item 29. Please come forward.
So it would be for our convenience if you were to display it on the table so we can have a visual display and then she can make a comment sitting at the table if at all possible, Mr. President. Proceed.
Proceda.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sigue.
We're not going to look at each individual print. What we're going to do is just, you're going to hold them up as a demonstration of the work that was involved. And you begin to speak and tell us what you want us to do and why. Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Hello. I appreciate the opportunity to present this to you today.
May I ask you to speak into the microphone, please?
Sure. I've made some notes
He ha hecho
here because
algunas notas aquí porque
I've never spoken to a
yo
group
nunca he hablado
like
de un
this
grupo
before,
como
so
este intervento. Estoy un
forgive me if I'm not a very
perdóneme si no
eloquent
soy muy
speaker here.
elocuente para hablar acá.
The reason I'm here
De la
today
razón
is a
por la
very
que estoy aquí
simple
es
matter.
una causa muy simple.
It is about
Es
honesty,
acerca de honestidad,
integrity,
integridad
fairness, and
y
justice.
justicia.
Nothing more,
Nada más,
nothing
nada
less.
menos.
To do less would be a
Hacer menos
dishonor to
sería
the
un
person
deshonor para una
who
persona
exemplified
que
all these
ejemplifica
attributes
todos los
and who put
atributos,
years of his
poner
time,
años de su tiempo,
knowledge, his heart,
conocimiento,
and his
su
soul
corazón y su
into
alma
this project.
en este proyecto.
With his ability,
Con su disabilidad,
expertise, and integrity,
experiencia y
Architect
integridad,
Edward H.
arquitecto
Fickett,
H. Fickett,
FAIA,
FAI,
completed one half
terminó la mitad
of the City Hall Phase 1 historic and seismic
Palacio
renovation
Municipal en su
on
renovación,
time
en el
and
tiempo
within budget,
y dentro de
as he
los
had
gastos,
promised.
como le había prometido.
Edward Fickett never
Edward Fickett
hesitated
nunca
to give credit to
tomaba
others
crédito a otros,
where credit was due.
donde el crédito
He
se-
deserves
él
nothing
es-
less.
se merece nada
It is
menos.
disheartening to see
Desconsolado para
that
ver
anyone
que
would
cualquier
capitalize on my
capitalizaría
husband's death.
en la muerte de mi esposo.
Mayor Bradley was extremely complimentary and enthusiastic in his praise of the work Architect Fickett did on one half of City Hall Phase 1. I have here a letter from Mrs. Bradley, who was going to come today but was not able to. I would like to read it to you. This is to confirm that Edward H. Fickett was the architect for the historic and seismic renovation of one half of the Los Angeles City Hall Phase 1. During the years that Mr. Fickett worked on this project, he met with Mayor Bradley at the mayor's residence at 605 South Irving Boulevard on several occasions to discuss the project. Mayor Bradley felt very strongly that he should be the architect to continue with Phase 2. Not only did he feel it was the fair and correct way to proceed, but he also knew Mr. Fickett's reputation for staying within time and budget. Mr. Fickett deserves to be acknowledged and to receive credit for the completion of the renovation of one half of the Los Angeles City Hall Phase 1. There were two architects. Each had a contract for half of City Hall. Architect Fickett had the contract for one half of City Hall, Phase 1. The other architect had the contract.
If I can ask you to conclude, please.
Pardon me?
If I can ask you to conclude.
Conclude?
Yes, need you to,
I have quite a bit more to say.
well, maybe Mr. Holden can help us out here. She's been given several minutes as we afford members of the public to speak on items, as you know, and council members wishing to discuss the item as well.
What was the question, Mr. President?
I'm asking her to please wrap up.
Oh, we did give her 5 minutes more, Mr. President. Respectful request.
On your time.
No. We don't usually do that. We just take a vote and then give them 5 minutes.
Go ahead.
There were two architects. Each had a contract for half of City Hall. Architect Fickett had the contract for the first half of City Hall Phase 1. The other architect had the contract for half of City Hall Phase 2. In fairness, both architects, each of whom had contracts, should be credited for the wonderful historic restoration and seismic retrofit of our very beautiful City Hall. It is generally misunderstood and believed that the damage to the LA City Hall was due to the 94 Northridge earthquake. This is incorrect. The damage, both structurally and historically, was due to the 1987 earthquake and earthquakes prior to that. In October of 1987, after the Los Angeles earthquake, many architects responded to RFQs. After interviews, Mr. Fickett was selected. in 1988 received contract number 64859 from the city to assess the damage of the 1987 earthquake and give a cost estimate for the repairs. I have a copy of the contract. Mr. Fickett found that the damage to the City Hall was so extensive due to the October 1987 earthquake, with cracks wide enough to put his arm in the crack, that he advised the city and Mayor Bradley that the tower of the City Hall was unsafe and must be evacuated. The occupants of the tower were evacuated, and later the rest of the City Hall was also evacuated. Mr. Fickett further reported that the City Hall cannot just be repaired, but that it needs to be brought up to code. A letter was sent to Mayor Bradley, which I have, by the city engineer, with a proposal to contract with Mr. Fickett for the architectural design of due to the 1987 earthquake. The city attorney did not agree, and thus another request for qualifications was issued. After responding and after 3 interviews, Mr. Fickett won the competition. On August 28, 1990, Mr. Fickett was awarded and signed contract number C83329 with the city for the historic and seismic renovation of the Los Angeles City Hall. Due to the tight fiscal situation, Mr. Fickett suggested dividing the project into 2 halves, Phase 1 and Phase 2. It was Mr. Fickett's idea. The idea was well received. Mr. Fickett felt it was utmost important to stabilize the tower first and use the money for that purpose. I have here photos, which I'll be glad to show the members of the City Council, of some of the early work and the stabilization done under my husband's contract in 1992. The scope of work and guidelines for half of City Hall included a complete and detailed evaluation of the entire structure. This Mr. Fickett did. A complete evaluation of the electrical of the entire structure. This was done. A complete evaluation of the mechanical. This was done. All drawings and calculations had to be copied and sent to Project Restore. Mr. Fickett did this. Mr. Fickett was to perform seismic evaluation on existing lateral resistance system of the entire building with a structural analysis by both static code and level forces. This was done. He was to establish minimum design level forces and requirements to be used in strengthening the entire existing structure, which will require Los Angeles City Department of Building and Safety approval. I have these plans here. All the approvals were made. He was to survey the conditions of the existing structural system and to determine the ability to withstand the forces of a major earthquake. This was done. I have computerized models that my husband did showing what would happen to the City Hall under various magnitudes of earthquakes. Mr. Fickett's findings not only showed the City Hall as it existed as a result of previous earthquakes, but also projected what would happen as a result of earthquakes of various magnitudes. His work was so thorough and so impressive that the city architects had a special video made of his presentation on September 3rd, 1992, which was given to Mayor Bradley and all other city officials. Mr. Fickett was supposed to provide seismic design construction documents. They are all here, all approved. He was supposed to make proposals for structural strengthening of the entire overall building system to improve the seismic performance.
Ms. Fickett, I'm going to have to ask you to pause at this moment and allow a couple of council members to speak. But if you can please remain there.
May I just finish this sentence?
Finish the sentence.
I would like you to see this condensed analysis and brochure which my husband presented to this city, showing various proposals for strengthening of the entire City Hall, including base isolation, all calculations, which was later used by the next architect. And my husband has all of this
Thank you
here.
very much. If I can ask you to please stay there, and if members have questions, I'd ask that you can please respond to them and be available to do so. The chair recognizes Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for taking the opportunity to come and speak before us. I know you've spoken to many of us privately. Clearly, your husband, by all accounts, was very involved and had a huge role to play in the ultimate restoration of City Hall. He was also one of the architects down at the harbor area and was responsible for some of the buildings down there. He was a good friend of my father's, so we know of the work of Eddie Fickett in this city. And clearly, if he is to be recognized, we want to make sure that that happens. What I think we should do is possibly send this to Public Works Committee and have Project Restore be a part of advising Public Works Committee on, indeed, Eddie Fickett's role in the restoration of our City Hall.
Motion to refer this to Public Works Committee.
And clearly, if we can honor him with the appropriate measures, then we want to do that.
Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, you can hold my time, and the Public Works is here, the engineer is here. I just wanted to give you just a 2 or 3 minute response to what was already said. I'm still going to go to committee, but I like to hear that for my own purpose. And then I'll comment. Take one of those posters down.
A rendering of the conference room.
I understand you. That's the conference room. What conference room?
On the 27th floor.
Oh, that's the tower. Tom Bradley's tower. Okay, go ahead.
Which my husband renovated.
Yes, my name is Gus Dembiatis. I'm with the Bureau of Engineering. Basically, I have a report that our engineering design staff came up with. In terms of Mr. Fickett's firm, it was one of approximately 26 firms that were parts of the City Hall seismic program. His firm did produce an early model showing how City Hall might perform during a large earthquake. That analysis was the basis by which the city engineer recommended that floors 5 and above be vacated to this council. Subsequent work reinforced clear danger would be magnified in the event of another earthquake. Mr. Fickett's work also indicated that a much more dramatic rehabilitation would be needed to ensure that the building would withstand future large earthquakes. Although his early work supported the need for the end design, in terms of the final design, those plans were not used since there were other consultants that were involved in this process.
Okay. Well, Mr. President, what you've done is really confirm what Ms. Fickett has already stated, that her husband made a significant contribution to the final product. And because that was in fact done, not only because of what you say, she said you confirmed, but the drawings are there, proved by engineering, sign off. Now, this information may have been turned over to Phase 2 design. Was it Phase 1 or Phase 2, or did the final designer do it all in one phase? I'm asking you that.
Yeah, phase, I was trying to refer to the phase.
Yes, my name is Fellow Wong. I'm with
this Phase 1 or Phase 2?
Phase 1, Mr. Pickett prepared the document.
All right, fine, that's all we need to know. The fact of the matter is that she didn't mislead us. There's Phase 1, you know, Phase 2, and then subsequently they took his drawing, his work, and gave it to the architect who finalized the design that we signed off on. Then, therefore, you can't say he didn't do a significant contribution. You can't say that the cost went down because of his contribution. You can't say that either.
No pueden decir, ¿verdad?
All you can say
Lo que pueden decir
is
es,
proud of authorship, proud of final design. And let's give it the credit to one individual, which is not the case. If he said that we need to do 2 phases, and we did 2 phases, that's a contribution. Though you may not consider it to be significant. But it went beyond that. That's a lot of work.
eso es mucho trabajo.
I worked on a board myself. I know what designing is all about, and I know that once you give me something someone has done their work, I can do a brown line during those years. Change the name, change a little bit of the thing, and put it back, resubmit it. You already done the work. You tell me that's not a significant contribution? Yes, it is, and therefore, it is my opinion, whether it goes to committee or not, they should be giving some recognition for the work that he's done. This is a historical building. It's known around the world. And the fact of the matter is that he did make a significant contribution to restoring City Hall at a time when we didn't have anybody on the job. And Tom Bradley said we should. And the engineering said we should. And who did they select? Mr. Fickett, because of his experience and contribution to the work that he's done, not only in City Hall, but in other areas, the Hans as well. I just think it's just, I don't understand why you would deny someone this recognition. But it happens all the time. I know I worked in a space system for the Hughes Aircraft Company, worm gear mechanism. And 3 years later, they tried to say, well, you never gave any contribution. I had to go pick the drawings out and show them with my name on to say it was done because I was getting no recognition. And I know what that really means. It means a lot to her and her family. It means a lot to me and their grandkids and so on, and for generations to come. There should be some place of note in City Hall to say, Pickett was here, and here's what he did for the people of the city of Los Angeles. Let it go to committee, but don't deny them that opportunity, that right which they have earned. It's not fair.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Mr. Burnson.
Previous question on the entire matter, please.
You're the last speaker on the list here, so without further discussion, would you have a motion to send refer this to the Public Works Committee? Without objection, that will be the order. Thank you very much for your presentation. Next item, please.
Item number 19 is on the desk, called special by Councilmember Sine.
Mr. Zine.
Yes, Mr. President, colleagues, if I could have the city attorney and the controller's office come forward. Controller's office. This is an issue regarding the military call-up and the city employees who will be called up to military service. And there was a question regarding the compensation, military pay versus their city pay. And when this was brought forward, there was a possible amendment by Councilmember Pacheco to have the involved personnel sign over their government check to the city and keep them on their regular city pay. We've done research with the controller's office and with the city attorney's office, and it's impractical at best. The government issues the check through direct deposit, and there's many complications involved in recovering any money. So we would move that the motion would pay the difference between the military and the city pay for all city employees called into active duty. The controller's office is already geared up. They've done this in the past with other call-ups for military personnel, and I would just encourage that we go back to the original proposal and support that. And if there's any questions, we have city attorney and controller to answer. And if there are none, we could just move that forward for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Ms. Galanter.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay. Staff wish to add anything? If not, thank you, Mr. Zine, for your leadership on this. We need to take a vote. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item is approved. Next item, please.
Not on the agenda is special 1. There's a motion brought forward by Councilmember Perry. City attorney shall speak to the need to make finding.
Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is has to do with the Phillips Temple Community Development Department, and it's a California nonprofit. They are building a 20-unit senior citizen housing development. There is a need to get the TEFRA and the application for the conduit bond financing in by Thursday, and that's October 4th. And therefore, the council would need to make the findings that the need to act arose after the posting of the agenda, and there was an immediate need to act.
Any questions or comments on the findings? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Special one is now before us. Ms. Perry? Anybody wishing to speak on the motion itself? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Special one is approved, and we'll send that forward to the mayor. Next item, please.
Special 2 is a motion brought forward by Councilmember Garcetti, and the city attorney will speak to the need to make findings.
Thank you. The police have called and asked for a reward immediately to assist for an ongoing investigation and possible new information. This has to do with an August 8th shooting of several people as they were sitting in their vehicle in North Atwater. And therefore, the council need to make the findings in motion.
Questions or comments on the findings? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Special 2 is now before us. Members wishing to speak? Mr. Zine?
Not on Special 2, but on item 19, just an add-on.
Okay. Let's come back to that. Let's vote on Special 2 first. Members wishing to speak on Special 2? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Special 2 is approved. Chair recognizes Mr. Zine.
I'd just like to add that be forthwith and it be dated to September 11th. Anyone who was activated as of that date, that it would take effect at that point.
Okay. Madam City Attorney?
I'm not sure that that's in the ordinance. We'll leave the ordinance as it is. If we need to reconsider it tomorrow and change it, we'll bring it back.
Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Now is time for public comment on non-agenda items, and as much as item number 27 is a closed session item.
And colleagues, item 27 is closed session. I've been informed by the city attorney that it's okay if we continue that until tomorrow. We'll take that item first because we have several members excused and we want to maintain a quorum. This is now the public comment period for today's meeting, an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on items within our jurisdiction but not posted on today's agenda. Council calls forward Johnny Rotella to be followed by Rich Reed. Mr. Rotella here?
Rotella está aquí.
Good morning, folks. Mr. President, members of the council. I've been here maybe 5, 6 times before when John Ferraro was president, Mr. Padilla, and I wish you all the best. Lots of luck with your new position and all the new council members. The reason why I came here, rather than write a letter to the Daily News in a public forum, I want to address one item with this group. And I was here Tuesday, January 9th, quite a while back. And I requested that you take a recount on the Boy Scouts issue. You voted, not all of you, you voted 11-0 to deny the Boy Scouts the availability of whatever facilities are around. And I think it should be overturned. We're at a time now, we're wearing our flag on our lapels. I wave my flag every morning in front of my house. It's out every day. I was in the service. I have 5 kids and all that bit, so I've been around. And we have to give the kids what they need. This is a patriotic period in our life. And this is a great move for this council to overturn that vote. It's a dark mark on you people. Now, Jackie Goldberg is gone. Over. Start fresh, Mr. Padilla. Lead this group. And I have 13 letters I brought here. And Ms. Galanta was the acting president. 13 letters, all from the Daily News, people expressing their things. She Xeroxed it, John Ferraro Xeroxed it, but I don't see anything happening. And this is important. A lot of these issues out here every day. It's very important to me and many people out there.
Thank you very much.
All right, I appreciate your time, and let's see what happens.
Thank you for
coming.
coming.
We'll do that, overturn that.
Mr. Rich Reed to be followed by Mr. Mort Allen.
Thank you for allowing me to address the council. I'd like to comment on what I regard as a significant improvement in the council over when I used to come here many years ago. During the last few weeks, I've found what I think is a real openness among some of the members of the council, as well as some other people within the city government, for the education reform ideas that I've shared with the council going back more than 15 years. Certainly you have the knowledge, certainly you have the power, you have the money to do such things as computerizing the transformation process for English and other languages and for music, so that you can actually get results like 90% of 7-year-old kids who could read Shakespeare or the LA Times, or who could open up full scores of symphonies and operas and read the correct pitches of the notes. As more and more of the individual council members understand that these things can be done, I'm looking forward to a time when there's a consensus to actually do them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Morgan.
I wanted to come down to remind you, let you all know about this. Unfortunately, in the system, the mayor has not appointed a deputy mayor for economic development yet, and so we got kind of a lapse in that. And I don't know how many of you know the International Council of Shopping Centers will have about 5,000 people Thursday down in Palm Springs. It'll be every retailer, every developer, every commercial property owner in LA will be down there discussing. And I know at the last event, I got Eric to go down there, Garcetti, and it's something that you might all consider because Rocky was responsible for bringing in $8 billion worth of development, and a lot of these guys are thinking about pulling out of LA now. I think it's a pretty good idea. And if I may just take 1 second, because I got stuck in traffic and I tried to get down there on the neighborhood empowerment, I just want to tell you that in the late 60s in Studio City, we had our resident Mayor Yorty and President of Public Works, the CAO, our councilman, everybody lived in Studio City. And every Sunday at 10 o'clock, we had a meeting at Arts Deli. Everybody would come down there and see them. And the mayor had a young assistant by the name of Greg Nelson, who was like 19 years old. And we started the Studio City Residents Association out of that, and Greg is the one that has kind of kept it all going. And I think that it's a role model, but the thing that really bothers me, which I had Mark say because I was late, is you've got the office of this down on San Pedro Street, and the whole idea of this is that when a constituent doesn't know what to do, instead of coming to your office and bothering you, he should be able to go into that office and get information of how to get involved in this community. And I really think it should go into one of the 4 meeting rooms that they don't use anymore, someplace on the 3rd floor here, so that you can just send the people in there and they can get information of where to go in their community, more or less like a public information thing. And I think to leave it down on San Pedro Street is like getting a bad start on it. Okay?
Thank you very much. This concludes the public comment period for today's meeting. Chair recognizes Ms. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just got notice from the city clerk's office on item 30 that I have to do, excuse me, a verbal amendment so that this community-based organization can start the process for getting its money today. Is that all right if I proceed?
Yeah, it's appropriate
So I have to make a motion to move to reconsider that item.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll on reconsideration of item 30. For a technical amendment, close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Item 30 is now back before us, and your amendment, Ms.
And the technical amendment is the following, that the city should be directed to use the Neighborhood Community Services Improvement Account, as the city will be reimbursed by Housing and Urban Development funds once they are available to provide the money for Justiceville Dome Village in the amount of $20,000.
Thank you. And as the author of the motion, you, I imagine, take this amendment as friendly from the clerk. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll on item 30 as amended. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Thank you.
That item is approved, and once again, forward to the mayor. Next item, please.
Motions for posting and referral.
Motions are posted and referred.
Council members request for excuse from council attendance. Councilmember Garcetti requests to be excused on October 17th to leave at 11:45. A motion is required.
Ms. Calantra moves. Mr. Garcetti is excused.
Councilmember Perry requests excused on Wednesday, October 10th for city business. A motion is required.
Mr. Reyes moves. Mr. Perry is excused. Ms. Perry is excused.
And Councilmember Hahn requests to be excused on October 3rd to leave at 10:45. This meets policy.
Ms. Hahn is excused.
The desk is clear.
Adjourning motions? Please stand.
Members of the council, I have two. I'll do, the first one is a constituent, Jack Frankel, who is survived by his daughter Iris Lasky, his old friend of many years in the Northridge community, and I'd ask that we adjourn in his memory. I know that we all were shocked by the events that took place on the 11th. We have with us in council chamber today the brother of one of the victims, and that was the pilot of the plane that crashed into the Pentagon. And we have with us Bradley Burlingame, who is incidentally the president of the Visitors Bureau and Convention Center for the City of West Hollywood. His brother was Captain Charles Burlingame, U.S. Navy retired. He was a captain. He's survived by his wife Sherry, daughter and grandson, two brothers, Mark of Lancaster and Bradley, who's with us here today. He's also involved in the reason I'm doing this because he's involved with my daughter. We're both involved in the Miracle Mile Residential Association, and I get bugged and lobbied by her all the time, by the way, in case you wonder why I am particularly interested in this area. Also a sister, Deborah Burlingame of Los Angeles. So Bradley, our hearts and prayers go out to you and your family for your loss and for all the people that passed on this terrible event that befell our country. Thank you.
Ms. Galanter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have quite a few of them here. I'd like to start by asking that we adjourn in memory of Tony Steinhardt, who was a longtime activist in the Venice and Marina area. He was active with the Rotary Club. He's a former LAPD officer who then went into advising just about everybody in town on how to do their security properly. He was also active with the Boosters Association, the Boys and Girls Club of Venice, the Venice Marina Rotary Club, and very helpful in setting up scholarship funds for young people. He passed away at the age of 61 after some serious problems with liver cancer. He's survived by his wife Yvonne, his son Stephen, his granddaughter Jessica, brother Vincent, and two sisters Alma and Marge. He was quite a character. He was a really nice guy. Then I'd like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Chuck Bodie. His real name is Charles E. Bodie. He was a 50-year resident of Westchester, active in community issues concerning, guess what, the LA expansion proposal. He died at home in July. He was 86 and had suffered a stroke earlier. He was an aeronautical engineer with a long career with several firms and agencies in the aeronautical field. He's survived by his wife, Norma, and two daughters, Norma Jean Gallagher and Ginger Christensen. Then I'd like to ask also that we adjourn in memory of Anita McCann Williams, who was unfortunately the victim of domestic violence. She had been trying very hard to extricate herself from a very difficult relationship. She's survived by her 2-year-old daughter, Angela McCann Williams, and her parents, Tom and Beverly McCann. That was a really awful. Well, they're all awful. Two more. I'd next like to ask that we adjourn in memory of James Poindexter, who was very involved with a number of people that many of you may know. He's survived by his wife, Rosa, and 4 adult daughters. He was part of a group called a social club called 5+5 Unlimited. This was a group of married couples who just hang out together and had a wonderful time. He unfortunately died in a motorcycle accident. He was a good friend of my deputy, Audrey King, who many of you know. And finally, I'd like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Jesus Anguiano, who died just a couple of days ago. He's the
father of Jim Anguiano in the planning department, the father-in-law of Sandy Anguiano, who works in my office, grandfather of Amanda Rosas, who used to work in my office and now works for the mayor. He's also survived by his wife, another son, 3 daughters, 16 other grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren.
Ms. Misikowski.
Mr. President, I was handed something by the staff of Councilman Wax, who had intended to make this adjourning motion on Friday and was unable to, but it's on his behalf that I'm asking the council to adjourn in the memory of Irene Aronson, who was a good friend of Joel's, a longtime resident of Tarzana. She leaves her husband Herb of 42 years and 3 daughters.
Mr. Reyes.
Council President, council members, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Alex Montalvo, who was born in Yuma, Arizona, February 1920. He was 81 years old. He passed away at his home on Friday, September 28th. He is survived by 3 sons, Ramon, Michael, Robert, and 2 daughters, Linda, Montalvo Trevino, and Silvia Montalvo Sarmiento. He has 16 grandchildren, 11 great-grandchildren. Members of the council, he has been a strong influence on me. He worked with Councilmember Mike Hernandez for 10 years. And he was one of those individuals who brought a lot of maturity and history in his presence as an activist. He worked with Civic for 30 years. He was a classmate of Cesar Chavez. The United Farm Workers had their first huelga against Safeway out on 4th and Soda Street. He helped with organizing, provided housing and food for Cesar Chavez and his union brothers. As a volunteer, he worked on the campaigns of John F. Kennedy, Sam Yorty, and colleagues Nick Pacheco. He is considered, in my mind, one of the original, and I say this affectionately, veteranos, that as a Chicano, he stood up for the raza in very trying times throughout history, and was the kind of gentleman that would, when I was in my campaign, he'd say, Ed, don't put your mortgage at stake, don't lose your car, don't lose your family in this. It's about you representing the community, but don't lose yourself in this process. And it's with that kind of insight and concern that he had for the community and for individuals. So in his name, I'd like to adjourn. He was a veteran of World War II. He was proud to be an American, and he'll be sorry.
Mr. President, can we say all members?
All members on that. Mr. Pacheco.
I wanted to join in this adjournment, Alex. Through the efforts of volunteering in the campaign, actually became a very good friend of my parents and my mom, especially because he was one of those individuals, although advanced in his years, worked very hard, very committed. Sometimes you could really see that he was putting in extra effort, and every once in a while we had to slow him down, give him a time to take a break, because you could see him really sweating and working hard, and there was always a concern because at the time he was 79, but he was very committed to the community, worked very hard on everything he believed in, and it's a good friend of obviously Mike and Ed and my family. So I just wanted to join in the adjournment.
All members on that. Any other requests? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.
Watching LA City View, Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
We now join our scheduled program in progress.